Well, one of my favorite filmmakers that you've worked with several times is Suzanne Bier.
Yeah.
How is it different working for a woman director?
I have no idea. I mean, she's just one of the boys for me. I mean, and she is a little tomboy in many ways, even though she's very feminine. I've never addressed that. In my world, I try not to divide it like that. I mean, there is a different energy. Obviously, she has a different perspective that I would have, but a lot of directors have that. And when she says blue and I say red, we might mean the same thing, but we're using different words, right? But she's just a very focused worker, and she doesn't think about being a woman, I guess. She's a director.
Would it be fair, and this is a question of mine not having seen all of your Danish films, would it be fair to say that you started out as a more physically active actor and that when you worked with her, she brought out more of you and pulled out more dimensions?
No, not really. I mean, I think I started out with Nicholas Refn, and even though there are some brutal characters, we also did a film called Bleeder together at the beginning of our careers, and I was a very held-back little shy man that works in a video store. Actually, I was just playing Nicholas in real life, and so no, I think that I've always been very inspired by, as I said before, this period in the 70s where people could be extreme and very internal. To do both, I found that super interesting for filmmaking. So I think that was something we worked with from the very beginning.
And one of the things you've done is we've worked in several different languages, and very effectively so. But when you work in a foreign language, is that a challenge, and is it exciting and liberating again to be back in your own language?
Both. It is a challenge. It's in the beginning is always uphill. There's a lot of it's a hat you have to wear, and the hat you cannot think about the hat. It's just supposed to be there, right? But obviously it's not just there when you don't speak the language fluently. You have to rehearse. And once you start shooting, you have to forget it. So wherever you picked up during the rehearsal is there, but you can't think about it while you're shooting. So it's just a craft you have to put on, and some languages are easier than others.
Russian?
Russian is not that easy. But as I said before, there is some character in there as well. There's a free gift in there because you all of a sudden you separate yourself from yourself because you're all of a sudden somebody else who's speaking in a foreign language, right? So that's an interesting process as well. But yes, then it's kind of a relief coming back home, doing it in your own native tongue. And very interesting so, because I had to speak other languages and I can't speak as fast as I want to in foreign languages. It turned out that when I came home, I was maybe a little more widespread in my own language. I could do stuff I would not have done before in my own language because I went out and did it in foreign language, and all of a sudden I would never have done that in Danish because I have an identity in my own language, but all of a sudden I could see other identities in Danish, which was a very helpful process for me, I guess.
One of the reasons that I have a great deal of admiration for you is because you survived one of the worst movies I've ever seen, Clash of the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
You were so great in that movie, even though the movie was so horrible. At least I thought so.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think so. I mean, it is what it is. It's a popcorn film, and I guess it works to a certain degree there. I think we all start out with great ambitions, and sometimes you just can't.
People don't set out to make bad movies.
Exactly, and sometimes it just doesn't turn out like that. I enjoyed watching it, and I knew we had problems during shooting it, and I could see them. But then again, I was enjoying looking at my friends and seeing that they put in a lot of effort.
But you had fun. It looked like you had fun.
We had enormous fun doing that.
You were being the warrior.
Yeah.
You were being the hero.
I mean, it was obviously for me that was the first time I was working with green screen creatures on that level, and I think it was the first time for a lot of us. And then we had Sam Worthington, who just spent I think a year doing Avatar,
right.
So when we were charging these giant scorpions, you just saw Sam in front screaming ballistic at something that wasn't there, and we all went like, well, that's the way to do it then, and it was funny, and we had great fun doing it, and hopefully there are some kids out there that enjoyed the film as well.
So what is the film that you just completed?
The film I just completed is an artwork in the sense that it's actually it's a commercial for the internet in 8 episodes of a kind of action/transporter film that's taking place as a road movie in 8 different countries all over Europe. So it was a rock and roll process where we did everything you normally don't do in a commercial, and then we tried to make it into some kind of a feature film.
Who directed it?
Is Ascolet. He is well known for doing documentaries, and he's done one American film. But he's a youngster, I call him. He's 40. He's got his base in documentary, and he's a very interesting character.
So, do you think that the fact that your first feature film was at age 30 had made you approach your career in a very different? I know you don't think of it as a career; you think of it as a movie that you choose, but made you approach the work in a different way.
I guess so. I mean, if you today we have all these programs where you can become famous overnight from singing or dancing or just being yourself in a room. And I think that there is a certain danger to the process if you're 17 years old and a lot of people come walking up to you in the street and say, "You're awesome, you're the best." And I think when you're 17, you start believing that you might be God, and it's not working like that. And I realized really fast that I could sit in a bar one day and that girl, she didn't speak to me. The next day she would speak to me. So it's simple to do the math. Right? And I think that if you're 30, you do the math a little easier than if you're 17. So for me, it was all about the work from the very beginning. And it might have been different if I was 18.
What was the mechanism by which you did make your first feature? I mean, how did you make that transition from being a dancer to...
Well, I joined the drama school for 4 years. So I was gone from the stage for 4 years. And then on my last year, Nicholas called me and asked if I wanted to do an audition for his first feature film, Pusher. So it just came out of the blue in many ways. I graduated as 30 years old for that film. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure.
Likewise.